It's essentially pattern recognition. Understand how the platform worked.
These just are very broad posts.
And that's with intent. Over the last year, I've done like 100 webinars. So webinars are my trust platform. And then I get people off platform, to the newsletter. So the newsletter is like over 200,000 now and growing. And that's a very, very simple CTA to do that. If every area of your business were to maintain its current level of performance, we're not saying it has to go down the drain. Everything maintains its current level of performance exactly as it is today. Where is the one area where change would have the greatest impact? How much of your time in an uninterrupted, deep, focused way is going to resolution of that issue on a daily basis? There was an interesting study in the book, The CEO Next Door, that looked at 2,600 high-performing CEOs to identify 4 key behaviors that were correlated with outsized success in the founder and CEO role. And one was decisiveness, prioritizing speed over precision, the ability to act on imperfect information. And the CEOs and the founders who were deemed to be decisive were 12 times more successful than their peers. The average founder and CEO is focused on just way too much shit, like way too much. There's way too many distractions. When we were building Skype, our goal was we're going to get the entire world talking for free. And because the goal was so stupidly ridiculous, it forces you to think in different ways.
Can I ask you a question? What do you think about my goal of wanting to double our business's EBITDA over the next 3 years? Is that not ambitious enough at all?
Problem with that is
Welcome back to the show. Today, we're looking behind the curtain of social success with Eric Partaker. He is the CEO coach. He's a best-selling author, an alum of McKinsey and Skype. He has built a massive audience. He has over 1.1 million LinkedIn followers, which is just, to be honest, incredibly crazy. So Eric is here to tell us exactly what that 1.1 million follower audience is doing for him, doing for his business. Eric, welcome to the show, my friend. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks a ton, Pete. Adam, super excited to be here. And lots to share.
Lots to share. And Adam, what are 3 things this audience is going to learn if they stick around until the end of the show?
Number 1, you're going to get a peek behind the curtain to hear how real revenue numbers are being driven by 1 million LinkedIn following and conversion rates that Eric sees from followers to high-value customers. You're going to learn how this framework is directing a massive audience to an accelerator program, effectively turning simple likes and shares into qualified applications, high-value customers. But most importantly, and what I am most excited about, is we're going to get into early-stage CEOs' biggest insecurities and how Eric helps him through it as a CEO coach. I was there. I still am there. Wildly uncomfortable with my position.
Super common thing, right? We've all, I know the founder to CEO journey super well.
Well, I'm excited to get into that. Adam's told me over the years, as the business has become more successful, his discomfort sometimes with the position he's in has failed to fade. I don't mean to bring
it oscillates. Some days I feel great about it. Other days I'm like, oh God.
Well, hey,
and that's typically on the Monday, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the place I want to start is really, Eric, if you can tell us about sort of CEO coach and what you do. We're going to dive into audience LinkedIn funnels. This will be super helpful context so people know what you're actually selling and steering people into.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks again. First off, for context setting, I had a ton of time on my hands. So anybody who's like, oh yeah, I'm going to watch this and, get an account of 1 million followers, it's not realistic. So just very quick background and explanation to how I got to where I am today. So it started as a consultant at McKinsey and Company in the Chicago and the Oslo offices. I'm half Norwegian, half American. Was part of the early team at Skype. So Skype doesn't exist anymore, but there was a time when it did. And then we had a big exit to eBay 20 years ago, then built a chain of restaurants after that. And then and I was living in London at the time, and then moved down to Portugal where I live now about 4 years ago. And then this gets back to like the context setting about, what's achievable and all of that. So when we moved to Portugal, I thought, okay, what do I do next? I will advise founders and CEOs, because that's been kind of like the main thing that I've done, throughout my whole career, right? Like either directly or indirectly at McKinsey. And I thought, okay, I'll do Mondays and Tuesdays. And then the problem became Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, because I thought that was going to be like a great idea, have a lot of time. Portugal, beautiful place, but it got really, really boring. And so then about 3 years ago now. So at the start of 2023, I started a post for the first time on LinkedIn, and then within 6-7 months started to, because it's essentially pattern recognition, and started to like understand how the platform worked, and then just kept doing like 80-20 evolutions of, well, what's the 20% that's driving the 80%, and replicate, and then all that just compounded to where I am today. And then that led to a bit of a pivot in that I was coaching and mentoring founders and CEOs, helping them scale like Mondays and Tuesdays. But then with suddenly this like big unexpected audience, I thought, okay, well, why not have another go at building a business, but this time focused on creating an ed tech focused on that space of founders, CEO scale.
Nice. I also just want to throw out there, yeah, like the chances of anyone in here, Adam included, probably hitting 1 million followers, pretty low. But you don't need 1 million followers to get a lot of value out of the platform. I have 10,000, Adam has 140,000. Both of our audiences do great stuff for us. And I'm like 1%.
And Eric, before we jump into what I want to talk about, can I just so if I look at your stuff, right?
Yeah.
Which super eye-catching, kind of like people I know, or like these just are very broad posts, right?
Totally. And that's with intent, right? It's really important that like the game that you're playing, right?
Yeah.
For me, it's for me, posting is my life is not creating LinkedIn posts.
Right.
That's like not what I'm interested in doing.
Yeah.
But what I quickly saw was like, oh wow, this can be a great content marketing channel, right?
Yeah.
Very top of funnel. And what should it do? Very, very top of funnel. Very top of funnel should be like, this is interesting. Seems like logically constructed, the writing's decent. It piques my interest. I'm willing to learn more, right? Or dig a little bit deeper. And that's it. And that's the only purpose, literally that it serves is, this is interesting. I want a little bit, dig a little bit deeper. And that's important because it's just a sea of noise.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's a great point. I don't, when I do a LinkedIn post, it is not a Pulitzer Prize submission.
Yeah. So the first content model for posting on LinkedIn that got explained to me was a guy named Daniel Murray, who has a brand called Millennial Marketers. And let's share that too. The way this model got explained to me was you have attention platforms and then you have trust platforms.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really have to have anything to do with each other. Like the attention platform. So he's like, look, my whole game is just posting funny memes on LinkedIn because nobody else is doing that and it breaks through.
Yeah.
On every single post, he's like, there's a CTA, every single post, join my newsletter, come to my event, buy a ticket to this.
Exact same for me. CTA in every post, except I've married the two. So you said attention, and what was the second thing you said?
So there's the attention platform, which for Daniel is LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And from my very early days was LinkedIn. And then there's the Trust platform, which for him is his podcast and newsletter. It's his
Okay.
newsletter, and then he's trying to drive people to his podcast too.
Cool. So yeah, so for me, those are married, right? So it's like if you look at every single LinkedIn post. So over the last year, I've done like 100 webinars. So webinars are my trust platform.
Yeah.
I don't have a podcast. I just do webinars and I promote them on LinkedIn. And then I get people off platform, to the newsletter. So the newsletter is like over 200,000 now and growing. And that's a very, very simple CTA to do that. So usually it's something along the lines of, do you want the high res version of the infographic? Like, yeah, that's it. Or if they sign up for the webinar, then they're going to automatically go into the newsletter funnel. And then the trust platform, that's where the conversions happen, obviously.
Yeah. So do you, how do I ask this question? Does it all grow together? Right? Like presumably you weren't getting 1,000 likes a post 18 months ago or whatever, and the reach wasn't what it is. So like, as you're increasing the reach of your posts and you're increasing the number of subscribers to your email list, are you also increasing the attendees to these live events? Like, how are you getting them to your live events? Through email promotion or through LinkedIn promotion, or both?
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah, both. And yeah, I mean, all of this was like trial and error to figure out like what posts work, what's the best way to do trust, on LinkedIn. Really, I mean, the key thing is nothing that you would even see here. So the key thing was good mate of mine, we're a business partner in a few things. We co-invest on some stuff, is a guy named Chris Donnelly. So he's based in the UK. And we formed a pact like very, very early on that, look, what's the African proverb? If you want to go fast, let's go alone. If you want to go far, together.
Exactly. Like I'm saying before. Say it again, because I just like ran you over there.
Like if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go fast, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Something like that. But I mean, really, it's like, no, if you want to go fast and go far, go together. So what I mean is that we just had this simple pact, and that was key. Like that literally was key, because that created this 1 + 1 = 3 effect, Chris and I, because now you have like two people who are trying to, grow, constantly looking at what's working, what's not, constantly knowledge sharing, and then that happened with the attention platform, right? With the posts. And then that also happened with, experimenting with webinars, rolling those out. Things are growing as your account grows, you get more signs. So for an average webinar, weekly webinar, I'll get anywhere from, and I run them like every single week, sometimes several in a week. We'll have anywhere from like, say, 400 to say 1,000 registrations per webinar.
How many do you get to actually show up?
Usually that's always pretty solid at somewhere between 30 to 40%.
Yeah. We're comparing ourselves to you right now. Compare and despair. You notice we have 146 today.
Yeah.
Certain guests and certain topics. I think our high was probably 650, 700 max concurrent. That's like Varun from Clay comes and like talks about the $1 billion fundraiser, whatever it is. And then we have certain topics. It's like everybody wants cold email. You know what I mean? Everybody like wants, I don't even know what else. And then this is kind of somewhere in between, Those
topics for us is where we get like the absolute highest registrations. They tend to be, I do a webinar on sales growth. I do one on 10x scale. I do one on, qualities, right, that underpin, great founders and CEOs. I mean, that's the same, I think, for everyone. So the thing though with the algorithm and how, I mean, the platform, I'm sure you've seen, like it's changed a lot in just like the last 6 weeks to 2 months. So basically there's massive limitation going on in distribution. And from what I've heard from the inside is that they purposely installed or adjusted the algorithm so that if a post is seen to be like absolutely flying, like it's going to go viral, they will purposely limit distribution then.
Yeah. That's so stupid.
Yeah, and I understand the
like posts go viral for a fucking reason. It's the reason
exactly.
people are on the system.
They're trying to keep people's feeds from getting like crowded out with like
Yeah.
the same people's posts all the time. So
okay, that is incredible context. I want to say, give people like a 2-minute overview of my content journey with respect to this trust and attention and trust platform. So I started with Tommy Clark. We were kind of under the influence of Daniel Murray. We were posting pictures of tweets at the time and memes and stuff, and I would get like 10,000 likes on it, whatever. Very quickly growing my audience. I didn't really have a newsletter or a podcast to speak of. And it was very confusing to me. I there was no funnel where it was like turning into business for me at all. And then I started seeing guys like Sam Jacobs. I don't know if you read his stuff. Like he's a B2B SaaS guy. A couple other B2B SaaS guys, they were writing relative to what I was doing. It seemed like Pulitzer Prize stuff. And I'm just like, man, like I want to sound like these guys, and I found out that this guy, Alec, was their coach, and he's like a creative director. He's not like a ghostwriter or anything. And, it took a few months for me to kind of find my voice, and I started only talking about B2B SaaS. And then I was kind of, it's very much both of those things for me. Like people have a very good sense of what I stand for through the stuff that I'm writing, and it's very intentional. And then I haven't done a good job at, capturing everybody to an email list. I just put our B2B subscribers on my email list. And then, you're witnessing our weekly webinar thing that also has absolutely no CTAs other than me every week dropping the swag link. Guys, if you're in the US and you want a piece of RB2B swag, I just dropped into the chat code RB2B. We got this cut rate distributor, can't ship overseas. I'm sorry. It's sort of consistent with our brand. But yeah, if the audience is alive and you want a piece of swag and you haven't gotten one already, there you go. Who's the distributor? I'll look into it and get back to you. So yeah, we'll end the LinkedIn segment there, and I want to get into the juicy stuff. Okay, so let me just give you some context for like, I was so acutely feeling this in my former self earlier this week. I was looking for a title for an RV that I'm selling, and I found these 2 pieces of paper that were like, they're written in May of 2016. I was stuck at 2.5 million ARR, and they were my like 8-year or 10-year goals or something like that, right? And my whole life was nothing like what it was, what I wrote on this paper, right? I was stuck at 2.5 million ARR, had been for a year, and there was no path out from that. I was single. I was living in New York. I couldn't afford to stay in New York and have a family. I was partying all the time. Objectively, just like I was in my late 30s, right? So like, kind of need this to start happening soon, or I'm going to be like a 50-year-old man and, trying to get a job. And the wild thing was 2 things. Number one, the just like crystal clear clarity of the vision that I had that has since played out. So there's this power of writing things down, right? I wrote things like, I want a 25 million ARR startup with 35 employees. I have 45 employees and a 25 million ARR bootstrap startup. Like, I want a great partner with a solid relationship. I want to be sober. It's crazy that I wanted that because I was like partying so much. But like I spent 5 years sober, wanted kids, got them. So like, okay, so that's the crazy thing that it like so played out exactly how I was hoping for. The thing that just hurts my heart and like brings me back to the state of insecurity that I was in is that guy who wrote that on that piece of paper made 0 progress for 4 years. and then launch Get Emails, and it like NowRetention.com, and it all started going, parabolic by my standards, at least, or the standards of this piece of paper. So
what was that inflection point? Like, what
it was literally like we put a feature in the first company that there was so much demand for the feature and not for the rest of the product. It was an email newsletter app. And then we put this like identity pixel inside of the news. Nobody wanted the newsletter app. Everybody wanted the identity pixel connected to everything else. Spun it out, sold the other one, and then it was just like off to the races. So a completely different product than I had before.
Yeah.
And I sort of met my wife, a year before I launched that business, and that whole narrative was going at the same time. But man, those 4 years in between, it was like just this cloak of anxiety is the only way I can describe it.
Was there any pressure in those 4 years? Did you have to?
So we were profitable.
Yeah.
There was not an urgent pressure.
Yeah. So that's
I just knew that I wanted the life that I wrote on that piece of paper. And I knew that my current business, which was like shrinking at 1% a month, could not support that. And then I kept trying stuff, and it didn't work until finally something did. Right.
But you said it yourself, like, without, in the absence of urgency, people will take the path of like least resistance. Right. So it's like, I mean, and you're not going to think differently either, right? You're just going to keep doing, like, just make something up. Like, okay, I mean, this is like complete stupid, but you're on, the floor of a building, and I'm like, your goal is every day you have to go down to the floor below 3 times per day. And once you start walking, you have to get down there within 10 minutes. And there's a staircase for you to do that. I'm like, you want to change anything about the environment? And you're going to be like, no. I mean, straightforward, right? Timer goes off. You have 10 minutes. You walk down the stairs. You complete your task. You do that 3 times a day. If I just suddenly say, okay, now your goal is you have to get downstairs within 1 second. And by the way, if you don't reach the goal, I don't know, blow your head off. You're dead. Anything you want to change about your environment? Well, now you look at the staircase and you're like, well, fuck, I can't walk down that. I'm going to get my head, I'm going to be dead on the 3rd step. So you think, okay, well, yeah, I want to drill a hole in the floor and install a fire pole, please.
Yeah.
And so now you've come up, because of like the urgency, a completely different way to achieve, the goal that you wouldn't have thought of before.
Yeah.
Without that pressure. So it's like you have to have, in the absence of pressure, people will drift. And, and drifting, the fact that the business was deteriorating a little bit over time, I mean, that's just nothing more than mirroring like the human existence, right? It's like every day that passes, we deteriorate, right? So,
Yeah. I mean, and I just wanted to use that to segue into like, what are the deepest, darkest demons that people are coming to you with? Like, why are they hiring you for your CEO coaching practice? My guess is that most people on this call don't actually know what a CEO coach does. Yeah. I've had one for a couple of years, so I do know, but like, I wanted to sort of, explore these feelings that we all have and how you actually, help people work through them or whatever.
Yeah. Well, okay. So there's 2 parts to it. It's like, why do they come, but what do they really need? And those are different things. Right. So the reason they come, and it's always the same, is, well, 3/4 of the time is like, I would like help scaling the company.
Yes.
Hitting a number, hitting an exit. I want it to grow. I want it to grow efficiently, all that jazz.
By the way, I want to ask the audience, does anybody here want to grow their revenue? Yes or no in the chat.
Yeah. So that's the reason, right? They're like, yes, I want to scale the company. Help me scale the company. I don't know how to scale the company. I'm trying. I'm beating my head against the wall. It's not working. It's not going as quickly as I would like. What the fuck is going on? Like, that's the reason. And they sense that there's either missed opportunity. So it's like more of like, there could be more upside, or like they know they're fucking up. So it's like, I got to stop the downside. Now, the thing is, and this is what I always say to like, a new founder, CEO, not new in the role, but new that I'm talking to, is that, look, you have to think of the company as the hardware. And if the hardware is going to operate correctly, you got to code the software correctly. And the coding ends up being things that they don't intuitively think about, which, if rectified and fixed, will drive the results that they're seeking. And that ends up being two other pillars, which is leadership. Are they really leading, in a way that, like, I know this will sound Abraham Maslowish, but it is what it is. It's how you need to lead. Are you leading in a way that, like, unlocks the full potential of the teams that you're leading? Because the research says that the average person, without proper training, gets 2/3 of their people's capability. That's like proven research, like 2/3 of their people's capabilities. You got a team of 300, you really only have 200. You got a team of 30, you really only have a team of 20. So if you learn to lead and manage in a way, mathematically speaking, like, what does that do? Right? That's like 50% increase in output, go from 20 to the actual real 30, 50% increase in output, no increase in expenditure, right? Super important in a scale environment where resource constrained. So that's an issue there around, are you leading and managing in a way, that gets the most out of people? The last pillar is just them as a person. The CEO is they're both the problem and the solution. They're both the bottleneck and the breakthrough. They often, so one quick example, I'll ask a CEO or a founder, I'll say, look, if every area of your business were to maintain its current level of performance, we're not saying it has to, go down the drain. Everything maintains its current level of performance exactly as it is today. Where is the one area where change would have the greatest impact? If you could only pick one lever. And usually they have no problem answering that question. It might be sales, it might be a particular aspect of sales or GTM or whatever it might be. But then when I say, okay, show me your calendar so that we can get a sense of how much of your time in an uninterrupted, deep, focused way is going to resolution of that issue on a daily basis. And that's where there's this huge disconnect, right? Because then they might have estimated that, or they would have said that's the most important thing, but it turns out that, like, only 5 or 10% of their time is going to solving that thing, right? So yeah, it's a multi-layered answer, but everyone wants to scale the company. But to do that, you have to really scale your leadership and self. And then within the self, the fundamental thing that is typically off is that people say they should be doing X, but they spend all of their other time on Y, Z, and Z to the N other things.
Yeah.
And then they get super frustrated and then they're pissed off. And they're like, why isn't this working? It's like, well, because you're not working on the right things.
How much of that is like people's inability to delegate those things outwards or to other people so that they can focus on, what they've already identified as that most important thing?
Yeah. And so that's where you get layers to the question. So for example, you ask that question, the one area where change would create greatest impact, and they start spitting out things. And so the natural sequence you go through is, are you the best owner of that thing? Is that the thing that only you can do? Or is there somebody else on the team who will better do that? Okay, it gets delegated out. But ultimately, we have to arrive at, or else why do you have the role? What is the thing that, only you can do that can drive the most value? And so, for example, if somebody's like trying to create, again, just make something up. Let's say, they're trying to create like 10x growth, exponential growth, and whatever they're doing. Typically, their current like sales and marketing machine is just like not going to yield that. But if the CEO started to think more strategically about, like, what are the key leveraged, partnerships to step into that will bring huge pockets of customers at once, and how do I go out and close those deals, like strategic BD? That's sort of like fundraising. Or so, only the founder, the CEO, you can't outsource the fundraising to the head of sales. Fundraising is selling, but you're not going to get a good result if you do that. And then, are they spending their time on that sort of stuff? For example, are they researching who all those partners should be? Are they going through LinkedIn to see if they're, how they're connected to those people? It's that sort of stuff.
How much of it's like, so, I mean, I'm sure you get so many people that come to you who are like, right, I need more business. I need to scale. They probably say things like, I need more leads. I need my calendar, things like that. I'm curious from your observation, like when someone truly is stuck, are you often seeing that they're just trying to like carbon copy what had worked before and do it in larger numbers, and then that's kind of where they hit that ceiling? Because like, let's say you have a business development arm, and it's working with, I don't know, 10 reps, and then you're like, okay, I put it into a spreadsheet. If I get 50 reps, I'll have 5 times the revenue. And then that
Yeah,
ceiling.
and things never like perfectly scale in that way. It's like sort of like ad spend, right? It's like you get like a ROAS of like, oh wow, I spent like $30 and I got 90 back. Jesus, I'm gonna spend 30 million.
Yeah. And you get 91 back.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way. I think another area where um people get tripped up, and this like LinkedIn is a great place to trip you up, is that you're reading all of these success stories about what's working and people's approaches, and then you automatically think, oh, if I just do that, that should work for me too. And you're forgetting like basic high school, like scientific method, like have a hypothesis, but then you're dispassionate about the result, and your goal is to only prove or disprove, right? And like you don't, that's it. Like that's the objective. And so it's fine, for example, to test lots of different channels and methods, but they're not all going to work. And you need to be hypothesis driven before you start like testing stuff. And like one of the, it's like simple basic questions. So for example, let's say you're trying to expand on social media. Stupid thing to do is like try to expand everywhere for lead gen. Like that's just dumb. If you take an 80-20 approach, what are the 20% of the channels that could generate 80% of my business? Or if you think about it in another way, if I think about my ICP, where will they naturally be hanging out in the highest concentration, right? I'm not going to go to the middle of the Pacific Ocean to fish for goldfish. Like that's dumb, right? So you have to think in that way. And then you'll think of LinkedIn, perhaps you might think of YouTube or whatever it might be. But yeah, I think there's like basic fundamentals, I guess, that people miss, especially related to like basic science and hypothesis testing. And they just try to carbon copy, and then you're not gonna get the same results.
I'm always fascinated by this tendency. Like I kind of say this a lot. I'm sure the audience has heard this, but like founders tend to be ambitious people, and ambitious people tend to get ahead of themselves. And oftentimes when I talk to a founder and they're trying to scale, go to market or whatever, they'll tell me a list of things, efforts they want to do. Yeah, we need to do more SEO, some partnerships, post on LinkedIn more, get some more cold outreach ads. I'm like, that is like 5 motions you just listed out. And I don't know if anyone's a Parks and Rec fan, but Ron Swanson has a great quote: "Don't half-ass 2 things, whole-ass 1 thing." And like, I think this, when you're actually getting into a channel, the amount of iteration, like the first iteration is almost guaranteed to fail or not work that well. Maybe it doesn't fail completely, but to actually perfect the motion, take a go-to-market motion, actually takes so much experimentation to figure out what types of customers you're going to, what part of your ICP you're going to get where, and all these other things. And I think when people spread themselves so thin, they end up failing at all of them. And I really liked what you said about like kind of this plug and play of other people's playbooks. All that stuff has to be contextualized. Like at the end of the day, even if you're in the same market as somebody or have the same audience, you're probably selling a different product. Or if it's the same product, you probably have to position yourself differently. So it's part art, part science. And like you do have to contextualize everything that you're doing to your exact case. And I think this allure of taking exactly what Clay had done to get to their crazy valuation and revenue numbers, it's just not going to be the same for you. They started at a different time. It was a different ecosystem. They had a different product. It's just not a guaranteed path for success.
I think a way I like to think about this is like social media content with respect to growing your startup is meant to be inspiration rather than prescription, right? Like you might take like one little piece of what Clay's doing and like kind of drop it in your thing. But the idea that you could just do that, you can't, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have I can't share names, but I have another example of two companies operating in a similar space, um, and both like doing about 20 million plus ARR, and the one company had completely dialed in outbound. Um, Apollo, Clay, 20 SDRs in a boiler room approach, just working. And then the other company, not doing exactly what they did, but still like very, very related, was like, okay, they poached that company's like head of sales, brought them over. They recreated the whole outbound stack, and it didn't work. And
Wild.
and what they but they're overlooking some really basic things.
Yeah.
So they had a very unique, not unique, but a very like clever sounding name. The other company's name was like literally what they did. Didn't require any thinking at all. A very boring brand name. And so like if I try to give an example, it's like, let's say, the companies in the car washing space, and one company's name is like, Car Washing Express, and the other ones is Viva. And it's as simple as, hi, this is Sally calling from Car Washing Express versus, hi, this is Sally calling from Viva. What we do is, and like these seconds count, and these these scripts and what you do, and people immediately being able to understand, but all of that was like just overlooked and not thought through. It was just, okay, let's just copy the stack and we'll obviously get the same results, right? But there's so many other layers that you have to think through, right? So many other variables. And I think too, like the most important thing is, I would say, is just be the scientist, right? So it's no problem like testing out new channels, testing out new things, but like, what are the success metrics? How do we know if we're succeeding or failing? At what point do we decide to continue versus stop? Because the problem that I see, especially with like sales and marketing growth, is that people test out new stuff. It's not clear what success and failure looks like. The tests go on in perpetuity, and they hose tons of time and money away trying to make something work that they could have just stopped like a long time ago, basically.
I watched a great piece of content that like had this exact message. It was the CEO of Apollo talking about how they went from sales-led growth to product-led growth. And he was just he literally kept referring to it as the scientific method. Like they would like hone in on, he's like, we needed to do these three things, lower churn by X, like increase sign up flow by Y, like whatever by Z. And he's like, we would just make a hypothesis, test the hypothesis. A lot of it didn't work. Enough did. Now I'm here on the stage, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was that was my first gig at McKinsey. Like that was like central to, that's like the way McKinsey operates. It's like it's all hypothesis driven. It's basically the application of scientific method to business, right? So
my executive coach is named Jonathan Shapiro. He's also a McKinsey guy. And if you ask him, so like I think we had two problems when we started working with him. One is we were horrible at managing, in that we were not clear at communicating. We were not clear at defining, setting expectations, defining deliverables, none of this. And then there's this other problem, which we still suffer from, where we're very gut, like we're not a data-driven culture. And, it's just really hard for us to actually play out an experiment over an appropriate amount of time and then say, it either worked or didn't. We just
Yeah.
want to like, we just want to like go with our gut, right?
Yeah, and you bring up another good point too, which is when people are trying to change and trying to become more data driven, like you have to be careful you don't replace one problem with the other, and you don't go like totally other, all the way to the other side. Like Colin Powell has the 40-70 rule, which is like a beautiful rule because it integrates like the two systems of thinking, right? That like make us human, which is like rational, data driven. What does the data say versus gut instinct? And his whole thing on the battlefield or applied to business as well is that, look, those who win are those who are able to move quickly and act decisively on imperfect information. And the 40-70 rule says that when you have somewhere between 40 to 70% of the information, that's the rational part. That's one system of thought. You then fill the remaining gap to make the decision with gut instinct, right? So, use, and this is really, really important because you can have, marketing attribution, for example. Fuck. It's like, it's so broken. It's so all over the place. It can kind of be precise to get signals, but then it's not. And then you second guess. And what's the brand effect? And is this worth? It's just like, so much to think through. But you can probably get 40 to 70% of the perfect information. And then based on that, if you want to be a decisive CEO, you say, okay, what does my gut instinct say? And this is super important. As Colin Powell, so Craig is asking in the chat. So this is super important. Why? Because there was an interesting study in the book, The CEO Next Door, that looked at 2,600 high-performing CEOs to identify, 4 key behaviors and all of this sort of stuff in the Founder and CEO Accelerator that we run. Like we train in all of this sort of stuff. But they identified 4 key behaviors that were correlated with outsized success in the founder and CEO role. And one was decisiveness, the prioritizing speed over precision, the ability to act on imperfect information. And the CEOs and the founders who were deemed to be decisive were 12 times more successful than their peers. And so these are people who have mastered the integration of those two systems of thought, 40 to 70% of the perfect information. What does my gut instinct say? Boom, 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 through everything. You have that with people decisions. People have different points of view. Is this person is right or not? And got 40 to 70% of the perfect information. What does my gut tell me? Make the decision. Boom, done.
There was a great example on this. Do you know John Carmack? He created Doom, the game, and Quake, and some of those others. But most recently, he was CTO for Oculus at Meta. And he had left at the end of the year, maybe a year ago or 2 years ago. And he'd had this open letter of why he was leaving Meta. And he basically said that the company's moving at 25% of the speed that it could because they're waiting for all of these mountains of evidence to pop up before they make a decision or to kind of pile up. And I think that's just, and this is Meta, right? They have all the data in the world. And even they are waiting for more and more data to make decisions, which he believes is slowing them down. But I just think it's like again, part art, part science. Like you have to take the artist's decision on the amount of scientific data that you have to kind of move forward. That's what I think makes this such a freaking challenging world. And usually, among all of us, we're either more of a scientist or more of an artist. It's tough to think like both or to have both of those skills. So I thank you for sharing that the Colin Powell stuff. I dropped a little blog, very short one on sort of that 40-70 rule, but I think that's just like, yeah. I mean, especially once you have like 50% of the data, what are the chances that the next 50% are going to be dramatically different from that first half of data that you collected? Like probably pretty low for the most part.
And we're talking about execution. And there's a couple of steps before that too. And this is a new, piece that I'm working on that I'm going to submit to HBR. But one of where there's 3 disciplines or like established fields of thought which haven't been properly stitched together yet, which contain like secrets to scaling more rapidly. And if you take some elements of performance psychology, constraints theory, and then system or execution design. Those are the three. So we're talking about like execution. And then theory of constraints is like another area that people don't invest enough time into thinking about. And if you had to sum it up in one word, it's like eliminate. What can you eliminate? And if you're thinking about like aerodynamics and reducing drag, it's usually the average founder and CEO is focused on just way too much shit, like way too much. There's way too many distractions, that the activities aren't truly high leverage, like truly needle moving, or they shouldn't be doing them. And so they need help, like identifying what are the things that I need to be cutting and eliminating. What is the 20% of the stuff that I should be doing for 80%, the growth that I'm seeking. And then the last thing is, it's talking about like performance psychology or behavioral science. Because I used to run this like peak performance program years ago. There's incredible power in like just setting, as simple as it sounds, like, massive goals with, an unreasonable, periods of time. When we were building Skype, our goal was we're going to get the entire world talking for free, within a few years. It wasn't like, become, a well-established voice over IP, software client that a lot of people are using. That's, dominates Europe or something like that. But because the goal was just so insane, same with LinkedIn. I said to myself, I'm going to get, I don't want to get to 100,000 in a year. How do I get to like 1 million in 2 years? And because the goal was so stupidly ridiculous, it forces you to think in different ways. Like I said earlier about like, if you have to get to the floor below you, if you have 10 minutes to walk down a staircase, take the stairs. If I tell you have to get down in 1 second, I'm going to blow your head off if you don't make it. Do you have anything you want to change about this environment before we start the timer? You might say, well, let's drill a hole in the floor and install a fire pole. So yeah. So, you have to, elevate, eliminate, and execute. And those three things combined enable scale.
Can I ask you a question? What do you think about my goal of wanting to double our business's EBITDA over the next 3 years? Is that not ambitious enough at all?
I just, the question to ask yourself is like, well, it just depends what you want, right? So if
I got that, I would be in great fucking shape. Let me put it that way.
But like if it's like I want to have, the problem with that is like, Peter Thiel has this question in 0 to 1. He talks about, hey, new founder, what's your 10-year goal? They state the 10-year goal. And then, he's like, okay, so what do you have to do differently, and what must you do on Monday to achieve that goal?
Yeah.
On Monday, I mean, it's a 10-year goal. And I don't have to do anything different on Monday. Okay.
Yeah.
If you had to achieve it in 6 months, what do you have? Well, fuck, I got a lot of shit I need to do. Right. Yeah. So the problem, what my only concern would be if it doesn't require you to take massive action, and massive action doesn't mean like working a ton more. That's not what I mean, because you also need to be focused on the right things.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, send the team to fix the staircase when I know that's not the way to go downstairs. I'm going to say, no, forget that project, drill the hole, install the fire pole.
Yeah.
So it's, is it going to force you to take massive action on the right things quickly enough, doubling your EBITDA? And maybe it will. My gut instinct would be that it wouldn't.
And there you have it, folks. I have the wrong role.
Eric, I love the way that you think. And as you were speaking, some of the things you were saying were reminding me of a series of books that I've read. And I was wondering if you had read them, but now I think I see them on your bookshelf. Have you read the Mental Models, the Shane Parrish series, over your right shoulder? Is that what those 3 red books are?
Do you want to know the truth?
Yeah.
I bought them.
Could have fooled me, buddy.
Yeah.
Those are 3 books that have been on the list. Because I started to read one. And I was like, shit, this is heavy.
Well, what's great about it is you can kind of flip through to a mental model, read one before bed if that's your style of bedtime reading. And I have a feeling if you crack into that and we have you on next year, we're gonna have a whole load of other other models to assign.
Oh
to
well,
that
and
stuff.
now that's good inspiration for me because I love thinking in like models and frameworks, and they just help you think. And anything that can help you think and simplify like complexity, right, is like will just help you move faster. You know, like for example, 40/70 rule, right? It's like hopefully now people leave this going, Jesus, I can be 12 times more successful by becoming more decisive. My tool to do that is the 40/70 rule. 40 to 70% of the perfect information. What does my gut instinct say? Boom, done.
I love that.
Dude, thanks for the great show. Where can people find you?
Um, I mean, do you want me to share a link?
Yeah,
Or-
drop whatever links in.
Cool. So this is the main thing that I do at the moment to help founders and CEOs. So that's the accelerator right there. And so that's where it's like, you know, the frameworks to help you think across company, leadership, and self-development. And yeah, basically scale a lot more efficiently.
Well, heck yeah. I also dropped in your LinkedIn link over there so you can get another, maybe we'll get another million from the show here.
And if
Also-
anybody wants to drop me an email, that's my personal email.
Boom.
Now there we go. Oh, hold on. I went to the, I'm gonna, guys, I got it coming. Don't worry. There it is. Well, Eric, thank you so much for joining, folks. We do have a new YouTube channel up just for the show. I just posted that as well. The newsletters that come out are going to have that link every week. So very clear where to find other episodes of Unfuck My Startup. Next week, Alexa Grable, the POCUS CEO, is going to come on here, which will be great. A nice little Thanksgiving week show. That'll be awesome. And Eric, this was awesome. Thank you so much. We would love to have you back at some point in the future if you're open to it, if you're not too busy. And yeah, you have.
Hold on, I'm trying to get his link. He sent it to hosts and panelists.
Oh, I popped.
Okay. Oh, you said okay. There's the accelerator link, Nicholas. Yeah, you gave the email. You just didn't give the accelerator link. Okay, Eric, thank you very much.
Awesome.
Great show. I'm gonna go set a bigger goal with shorter time.
Cool. All right, take it easy. Thanks, everyone. See you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.